Ikim Inspirasi Inforia Islami. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabi ajmain. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahul qawli. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. And a very good evening to all the IKIM radio listeners who are with us right now in this program Open Forum. You are with me, Anizahura Abdul Aziz, your host for today's episode of Open Forum. This is actually the new season or a new season for Open Forum. And inshallah, you'll be with me as a host and also with Open Forum throughout the months of July till September, inshallah. And thank you for tuning into IKIM Radio and also to those who are watching us through our Facebook page. And Alhamdulillah, for today's episode, inshallah, we'll be discussing or talking about a very important dimension of Malaysian society, or a topic which is relevant, which I think need to be discussed continuously. And we have with us in the studio our Professor Dato Dr. Azizan Baharudin. Professor Dato Dr. Okay, thank you for being with us for this episode of Open Forum, for the first episode and the new season, in the new season of Open Forum. Welcome, Dato, to the program.
Thank you so much, Puan Anizahura. Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation.
Okay. So inshallah for today's episode, Dato, we'll be talking about the topic of our discussion is on harmony and peaceful coexistence.
Yeah.
But before I start off with the questions that I think which is very much contemporary and also very much relevant, I would just briefly introduce you to our listeners. Prof. Dato Dr. Azizan Baharudin was actually the former Director General of IKIM, and currently she is the Director of Center for Civilizational Dialogue, University of Malaya. Dato is actually specializes in several areas such as environmental ethics, religion, sustainable development, Islam and science, bioethics, interfaith, inter-civilizational dialogue. And Dato has actually published more than 300 books and book chapters, monographs, articles, journal articles, newspaper articles in the above mentioned fields. Due to your contribution, Dato, in the areas of science and religion, you have received an award from the Center for Theology and Natural Sciences USA in 2001, and you also awarded the Federal Territory Mal Hijrah Award in 2016. And in 2016, Dato received the Langkawi Award from the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment for your work in environmental education and activism at the national level and abroad. Dato was a lead member of the drafting team for the Islamic Declaration on Global Climate Change, IDCC, endorsed by the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. And currently, Professor Dato Dr. Azizan Baharudin is a chairholder of UKM, Yayasan Saim Darbi Chair for Sustainability, and also a member of Majlis Kebangsaan Bagi Hal Ehwal Agama Islam Malaysia, or MKI. So again, Dato, thank you for being with us, and thank you for accepting our invitation to talk about this very important topic. And I think this topic is also close to your heart, especially when you've been involved with dialogue for so many years, and your experience with regard to this, how important the topic is to our society. All right, but we need to explain to our listeners, Dato, why this topic is important. So if you can start off the conversation this evening, Dato.
Yeah, thank you very much, Puan Anizahura. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi washabihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali sayyidina Muhammad. Thank you once again for having me with you today in this first session, first episode of your Harmony and Peaceful Coexistence series of talks in Open Forum, Puan Ani. Actually, intercultural dialogue, intercivilizational dialogue I have been involved in it since the year 2000. Uh, Maybe later we'll speak about that when we come to pertinent topics. Yeah, but
Yeah.
we mentioned a lot in my background regarding environment, right? So the thing about environment is the keyword is ecology, where things exist, coexist in a very peaceful way, in a harmonious way.
Yeah.
People might talk about Darwinian theory of evolution, where there's a survival of the fittest and all of that, but there is an analogy in the existence of the environment as created by Allah, with its balance, with its members coexisting nicely, that can tell us something about how we could conduct our lives in the social sense as human beings. So, why this topic? I think everywhere we look around, we can no longer say that we are an isolated race, we are an isolated community. You cannot run away from encountering the other. Even if you choose to not do anything about other people, just sitting in front of your television set every night will bring you close to other people. So whether you like it or not, you'll be reminded of Surah Al-Hujurat, as you know you're most familiar with, um, ayat 13. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allah says He created us into different nations and tribes, so that we might get to know each other. And the best amongst us are the best in taqwa. So we really need to unpack the word taqwa, doing as Allah would like us to live, in manners that expands His compassion, expands His mercy and rahmah. Yeah? So anyway, we will speak about that a little bit, a bit more later. But I think when we speak about this topic, you have to bear in mind that there's two audiences here. Firstly, us as Muslims, right?
Yeah.
And secondly, our non-Muslim friends. So our language and narrative will have to consider the understanding and the background of the other as well. So
Yes.
we always tout or shout out the fact that Islam is a universal religion. Yes, indeed it is. But therein lies the responsibility for us to choose words and narratives that can be acceptable to them also. And for this, we'll need dialogue, right? And this is another, I think, important point that we want to embark upon in the series, hopefully, inshallah, so that dialogue will become a culture. Many people misunderstand what dialogue is. They think that dialogue will lead to pluralism, will lead to equalizing all religions. So these are some of the misunderstandings that have to be addressed. So again, this topic is also important because I think unity is like oxygen, isn't it?
Yeah.
Uh, it's like the food and the water that we drink every day. We need it to sustain our lives in a social, communal sense. We don't want to speak about the sad things that are being spoken about on social media, for example, the wrong accusations, the conflicts that not only occur inter-religiously, but also most unfortunately intra-religiously. So you know that ayat Surah Al-Hujurat, ayat 13 Surah Al-Hujurat, some of the asatiza we are listening are also beginning to use that ayat to describe the situation intra-religiously within our own Islamic group.
Yeah.
And I guess we can guess also that in the other religious traditions, faith groups, they have the same problem also. So
Mm.
again, why do we need this topic? We need to understand what is harmony, why is it important, and to achieve it, we need to live peacefully, coexistentially.
Yeah.
Yes, so we can bring in later ta'ayush, ta'amul, yeah. And I think most humbly, Puan Annie, we can talk about what IKIM has done, in the past 30 years. Yes, IKIM has always been with a mandate to make Islam understood to Muslims and non-Muslims. And for that, I think it's not too much to share with our audience that we have books like this, with yourself and our other colleagues, and like this, and many others, yeah, that speak about peaceful coexistence. And I hope that we, based on the Constitution, acceptability, universal acceptability of the constitution and also of the Rukun Negara. Yeah,
Yeah.
we will begin a new season of new new age, shall we put that way? Yeah, a new
Mm-hmm.
idealism in Malaysia,
Yeah.
where even if when we speak about unity, it will be laced with religious words like ta'ayyus, ta'amul. It will draw people into the peacefulness that we long for and
Mm-hmm.
not break people apart. So
Mm-hmm.
we want to put a religious garb onto the idea of harmony and peaceful coexistence. Why? Because religion provides us with a way of life, a proper way of life.
Mm-hmm.
And this we have to explain to ourselves and to our non-Muslim friends is the way forward. And to gauge whether we are on the right path or not, we can look to the west, to the other world today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're using the word Western not in a discriminating way,
Mm-hmm.
but societies that have experimented with running away from guidance in terms of values and principles, they
Mm-hmm.
have already come to a certain point where it is chaotic, it is chaos. Postmodernism, postmodernism, yeah, running away from values actually mean running away from your true self. And there
Mm-hmm.
are many works coming out today where people are actually trying to look once again for this lost wisdom, be
Mm-hmm.
it philosophy, be it introduced teaching. So we have gone far from just speaking about racial unity in Malaysia, for example, let's not fight and all of that. It
Yeah.
is the topic is critical, like you said, it's important because it's a planetary issue. It's a world issue.
Yeah.
And I think inshallah whatever we say in this program, we hope it can be shared. It is shareable with
Mm-hmm.
as many others as possible out there. Thank you so much. Yeah.
So, from what you're saying, this is actually not unique just to Malaysia, Dato'. I mean, when we're talking about harmony, we're talking about peaceful coexistence. We are actually talking about what is there in our nature, in our
Mm,
environment, as you have said.
mm,
Um, Everyone knows about the uniqueness of Malaysia social fabric. We have this dynamic coexistence between people of different religions, different races, different ethnic background, and so on. Um, Maybe if you can share some of the challenges in managing this unique character of the nation, so that we
mm.
have a better understanding of what kind of uh, achievements that we would like to have in the future for Malaysia.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think the challenge, especially today, let's not talk about 50 years ago, right? Let's not
Mm-hmm.
talk about during the times when our community, all races were fighting for independence. That time it was critical that everybody came to the same table with the same aim, right? But
Yes.
today, after 60 something years, 65, 66 years of independence, it's as if we have lost the feeling of gratefulness or
Mm-hmm.
syukur, as we say,
Yes.
we can't blame the current generation because they did not experience what happened, the trauma, the struggles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have taken independence for granted,
Yeah.
and we have, I think, been sucked up into the challenges of everyday life
Mm-hmm.
vis-a-vis economic well-being and social well-being, so to say. Yeah. And also, I think it's a common trend everywhere that we have taken religion also for granted.
Mm-hmm.
So those religious principles that actually drew us together in terms of us having to be tolerant of each other,
Mm-hmm.
showing mercy on each other, has somehow been diminished. So right now we need to make a resurgence. I think by now all of us in Malaysia have heard of the Madani concept by the government.
Mm-hmm.
So that in principle actually is talking about Madani, as we know, in principle, in one sense, talks about civilization.
Yeah.
So our state of being civilized is actually under threat. So what
Mm-hmm.
do you mean by our state of being civilized? Orderliness. There is order in our lives. There's a system in our life. There's an education system. There's an financial system. There's a political system. There are systems abound yeah, in our life that actually shape our behavior,
Mhm.
that ensure harmony, that ensure peacefulness. This is what we have forgotten. And for this, citizens have to do their responsibility. First
Mhm.
and foremost, for example, they need to pay their taxes. So how
Mhm.
else do you pay for the hospitals, for the bomba, for the police force, yeah, for the security forces? How
Yeah.
else do you pay for that unless the citizens actually support the means for supporting those services, yeah, the
Mhm.
hospitals, and this is what we mean by us, many of us, being sucked into this feeling that all we should talk about is our rights,
Mhm.
should demand what the government owe us, what the system owes us. The other, the putting the question the other way around is also equally important. What do
Mhm.
we do to support the system? So just now we spoke about ecology and the environment. Everything in the environment, every element inside the environment, actually they need each other, they support each other, yeah,
Mhm.
the water
Yeah.
cycle, the oxygen cycle, and all that. So likewise in our everyday life, that's why we also speak about the social capital. Later we will speak about this, yeah. When we
Mhm.
speak about development, we always speak about economic capital, physical capital, human capital.
Mhm.
But most critically, we need this situation where human beings understand the laws, the regulations, their responsibilities. So that is, so when we say there is harmony, there is peace. What does that mean? We have freedom, but freedom comes with responsibility. So
Yeah.
coming back to your question, what is the challenge, yeah, in managing this unique country of ours, which is so diverse? And I think we are not overblowing it. I think we are not dramatizing the fact of our uniqueness. We are
Mhm.
unique. We are unique. That's why we are so attractive to so many people. How can so many religions, with people with different religions and races, is just be so peaceful with each other?
Mhm.
Yeah, some people, the pessimists will say, but we are not that peaceful. But I think you and I, we can breathe easy, and many of us out there can breathe easy that today our children can go to school peacefully, right? That
Mhm.
today we can drive to work peacefully. That accounts to a lot. So what it has been the manner of the situation where we manage, and I think in one of our books here, uh, if you want to speak about this in the Islamic sense, you can. But I think this the talking about it in the Islamic sense is also very easily translatable into a universal kind of language. So
Mhm.
our friend Shukri Muhammad talks about siyasa syariah, yeah,
Mhm.
which means that uh, the way the country is being governed, yeah,
Mhm.
relies on tolerance, relies on acceptance of diversity, the different kinds of belief system we see now.
Mhm.
We prioritize. We put importance in a list of priority. What is most important? Then we
Mhm.
prioritize the things that are important, and
Mhm.
then uh, we don't bring into the picture things that we are different about, which will cause conflicts. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then we will give everybody a chance to speak their what do you call it, their ideas and their
Mhm.
perspective,
Mhm.
and then there is a sense of the sharing of the power, if you like. But
Mhm.
again, for those of us who are slightly ethnocentric, for example, are we not guided by? Yeah, of course we are guided by the constitution, by the rukun negara, by the laws of the nation. I mean,
Yeah.
we speak about the constitution. That's about the laws of the nation. Everybody must respect that. And
Mhm.
can we respectfully ask a question? Could there be a substantial number of us today that don't understand what the constitution is, what it stands for, and also
Mhm.
the rukun negara, right?
Yeah.
Bersopan santun and all of that. So your question says, how do we manage this uniqueness of diversity by having a system that actually embraces this diversity, that actually respects the constitution that was brought together in a very wise manner. Of course, there are some people that wants to change, so we hear, right?
Yeah.
But before they do that, they should study it carefully and look at what has been the results of that constitution and rukun negara,
Mm-hmm.
and compare it to whatever they think they want instead of these two things now,
Mm-hmm.
and forecasts what will be the outcome of the nation's state of stability
Mm-hmm.
should the changes that they wish for come about. So this
Yeah.
is not, we have to be very mature about this, and political maturity, being matured as a people in our country. I think one of the, I think, I wouldn't say negative. I don't want to use the word negative, but kita like macam we are so used to taking for granted the peace that we have,
Mm-hmm.
right? That
Mm-hmm.
we hardly are able to defend the principles that we have been living by in a conscious manner.
Mm. Yeah.
So we are not, when we're not able to do that, then we cannot defend. If there are forces that want to change, what is there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think for the Muslims especially, we keep on saying, we keep on saying Islam is the answer, but sometimes we fail to show how. So we
Yes.
say that Islam is full of mercy and rahmah, the first two names of Allah, Rahman and Rahim. We sometimes fail to manifest those two principles in our lives, in our attitudes, in our behaviors as Muslims. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do we manage this uniqueness by having the system that we have been having so far? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's laced with Islamic values, but these values again, and I think we can challenge ourselves, and we will not be, you know, uh, scared to do so. We
Mm-hmm.
can actually explain how this
Yeah.
has been the way, and it has been proven to be successful. Yeah,
Right. I think you've mentioned about how as Malaysians we have actually take for granted the
yeah,
peace that we are experiencing, that we are actually enjoying. If we look at or we compare the nation with other countries, there are maybe in terms of the peace and harmony that we have right now is something that we must value and must protect.
mm,
We are talking about harmony and peaceful coexistence, Ato.
yeah,
What is harmony? What is peaceful coexistence? And actually, how are these two related to the social capital of a country? And in
yeah,
the sense of how is it important to Malaysia?
yeah. Okay, so maybe we should look at the term social capital.
Mm-hmm.
Social capital refers to the network of relationships, yeah, among people who live and work in a particular society. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this social capital enables the society to function effectively. So the key
Mm-hmm.
word there is relationships
Yeah.
and network, which means these relationships are at multi levels,
Mm-hmm.
various types. Yeah, for example, when you're at work, you have a relationship with your co-workers.
Mm-hmm.
In any situation in Malaysia, that would involve Muslims and non-Muslims, for example, yeah,
Yeah.
on the different races. At school, in the
Mm-hmm.
government, in all the various departments, in the police force, in the firefighting division, in the hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
Those of us who have had the opportunity to have to stay with our relatives in the hospital, for example, you can see how the doctors, nurses, they have no time to ask people what race they are, and what traditions they come from. If you need a blood transfusion, there's blood there. You don't
Yeah.
ask which blood it is, right? You just have to figure out, is it what type, the
Mm.
O, OB, or what, you know. Um, so these relationships are very precious, and today we can ask, yeah, are we diminishing the social capital? Are we maintaining it?
Mm-hmm.
Are we strengthening it? Like if you use the analogy in the health sphere, to
Mm-hmm.
be healthy, you have to eat well. You have to have vitamins. You have to work at it, right? To keep
Yes.
yourself healthy. So I think the relationships is also like that. So our problem is we are not exposed to each other
Mm.
enough, and in a manner that is meaningful enough.
Mm-hmm.
Because exposure to each other, having a relationship means you actually understand each other, you actually accept each other, right? And is that happening or not? Or is that happening in enough numbers?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, or so social capital is dependent on, or which comes first? Harmony comes first or social capital comes first? But certainly you can see that they are related.
Yeah.
So I think social capital comes first, relationship comes first.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look up the dictionary, harmony is also referring to music, for example. If you listen to the music that comes up of an orchestra, from an orchestra, in the
Yeah.
orchestra, you have the string, you have the piano, you have the violins,
Mm-hmm.
you have the cello, you have the various wind instruments. But what comes out is music that is harmonious.
Yeah.
And if the music is not harmonious, it is not music. It is just sounds, and worse still, it becomes noise.
Yeah.
So let us shut our eyes for a few seconds. In Malaysia, when it comes to racial relationship at the moment, is it noise we are experiencing, or
Mm-hmm.
is it music we are experiencing? And we know, in science, you can do experiments on people, the effect of noise, especially noise that are really affecting your nerves and all of that,
Yeah.
and harmonious music, right? And then the other word just now is peaceful coexistence. Where
Yeah.
does that word come into the picture? So you can see that they are all interrelated, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you cannot have harmony if there is no peaceful coexistence.
Yeah.
But like we said earlier, all these words, they seem simple, isn't it? But I think they
Mm-hmm.
need unpacking, and we need to speak about them together, not just intra but also interreligiously. Or
Mm-hmm.
the emphasis should be different now. Before, we used to harp on the fact that we need to do a lot of inter-religious dialogue, intercultural dialogue. I
Mm-hmm.
think I think through our recent experience, through our current research at IKIM and University Malaya, for example, I think people are talking now the need to look at the intra situation.
Mm-hmm.
Because within each group, if they are not in harmony, how can they present themselves as a harmony element
Yeah.
that that can create good relationship with the others,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think to make things most fundamental, at the end of the day, each one of us have to look at ourselves as individuals, in
Mm-hmm.
the family, in the taman perumahan, at the place of work,
Yeah.
and anywhere else. So
Yes.
harmony, peaceful coexistence, social capital, they are all together. But
Mm-hmm.
I think social capital is the sum total, isn't it?
Yeah.
The summary of the harmony,
Mm-hmm.
which is the result of coexisting peacefully. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, I think we should ask a question. We need to ask a question. And but how do you coexist peacefully? Apa
Yes.
larang-larangnya? What are the conditions?
Yeah.
I think our current research at IKIM and University of Malaya, for example, plus other local universities with our colleagues out there, we are trying to look at this so that when we speak of harmony charter, for example, we are
Yeah.
speaking about conditions that need to be adhered to,
Mm-hmm.
behaviors that need to be adhered to, which are based on actual research. If you actually do this, this is what you get. If you don't do this, you get something else. So we're becoming very scientific about this, and this is not to put science on a pedestal. No, this is the value empirical research, which means people cannot quarrel with it anymore. Just like if you cough, you need cough medicine, right? Or whatever equivalent. Can you
Yeah.
say no, no, no? I will cure. Yeah, you will cure yourself, but there's no, you may take a long time, or you might get worse,
Mm-hmm.
or you get sick with bacterial infection. You need the antibiotic, right? You might die if you don't take the antibiotics, or
Yeah.
take the recent pandemic if there
Mm-hmm.
was no vaccination and all of that. So it is a must. It is black and white. So to have peaceful coexistence, to have peace, to have harmony, there are
Mhm.
things you must do, wajib, in religious terminology, right? And if
Yeah.
you don't do it, what happens? Then you have chaos. Then you have dosa, which
Mhm.
is injustices, which is hatred,
Mhm.
which is disharmony. So take your pick. Which one do you want? It's just that in terms of finances, in terms of anything else, yeah, you can be very specific about the do's and don'ts.
Mhm.
But in terms of harmony, we have never been specific, right?
Yes.
So right, that is why I think that the people that the forces or the individuals the that is behind the research, I think they've come to this conclusion. Just
Mhm.
like as you are nurturing your children, don't you actually force, quote unquote, lovingly, yeah, if
Yeah.
possible,
Mhm.
certain codes of behavior amongst them.
Yes.
And then comes a certain age, after that, you reward or you punish them if they don't follow.
Yes.
So we want people to understand this, and this is not going against human rights or anything else. This is why we say earlier on, people in
Mhm.
the West who insist on absolute freedom
Mhm.
actually now making a change in their opinions.
Mhm.
They feel that there is no such thing as absolute freedom, and this is scientifically correct because if you're thirsty, are you free not to drink? If you're hungry, are you free not to eat? Ah, so it's as basic as that. So
Yeah.
I hope, after this, issues of harmony and unity in Malaysia be taken very, very seriously by everyone and not
Yes.
be relegated to a corner somewhere in terms
Mhm.
of policy, in terms of financing, in terms of efforts by
Yeah.
all of us. Yeah,
Right.
inshallah.
Okay, thank you, Dato. I think what the keyword that I would like to stress, and also what you have explained and elaborate, is actually on how important for us to preserve that relationship between um, us, between all of us,
Yeah,
regardless of which background we're from, and also for us to get to know one another. Even in Islam, we've got this lita'arafu, that means get
correct.
to know one another, and show mercy, show rahmah, and also the kind of characteristics that are very needed for us to portray, as especially as Muslims. So Datuk, we've come to the end of our first part of this week of Open Forum, insyaAllah. So with that, once again, I thank you Yang Bahagia Professor Datuk Dr. Azizan Baharudin for being with us on Open Forum, and also for sharing your thought on the first part of our topic, harmony and peaceful coexistence. Inshallah, next week we'll be talking about the tools to harmony, how we can actually promote this. And thank you to the producer, Haja Maslina Alias, and also to our digital technology team who are helping us with this recording, inshallah. And to our fellow listeners, do tune in again to our program Open Forum every Sunday with more interesting topics, inshallah. So we'll meet again next week. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.